Hello everyone! A few weeks ago I released a video where I talked about my 5 reasons that I personally left Notion and switched to Craft, and since then I have received lots of very nice comments. Many people had lots of questions about Craft and asked to see more screenshots and wanted to know how I personally structure my data in there. But honestly, I don't feel very comfortable sharing my exact setup because it contains lots of sensitive information that is very personal to me. So I thought a lot about what I can still do to help you out, and what I came up with is that I can set up a document together with you and basically kind of a first steps in Craft and show you how I would set up things, how I would organize them, and which functions inside of Craft I use. So it's not going to be an in-depth tutorial of every single function that Craft has to offer. It's more like a walkthrough that you can follow step by step. And at the end of the day, you don't need to use Craft the way I do it. The video is merely intended to give you some kind of inspiration to figure out your own setup and explain a few features that you could use to do that. So there's 2 things I would like to point out. The first one is that video is not sponsored, it's my own way of doing things. And number 2 is that I am a paying subscriber to Craft. So the version I use obviously is the unlocked version. I know that there is a free version which will have some limitations, but I'm not sure which ones they are. So if you are on the free version and you cannot follow my walkthrough step by step, then this may be the cause for it. So what we're going to use today is the desktop version of Craft that I have installed on my MacBook. But some parts of the tutorial I'm also going to show you alternatively on the iPad, because it has some very nice functions there as well. And Craft also recently released a web version, so you can now sign up for the beta list, I think, and that means that you could also use Craft on Windows. So I signed up for the web version, but honestly I did not have too much room to experiment with yet. But if I had to guess, I would say that most things that I show you here in this walkthrough today are the same on the web version. And without further ado, let's just jump in and have a look of what it is that we're going to create. So we're going to create the page for my next Brazil trip. Well, obviously it's an imaginary trip right now, but you have to keep the hope up, right? So we create this page with a nice title image. We're gonna add a to-do list. I'm gonna show you how you can create those colorful headers and which options you have to style them. We will create a page inside of a page. I'll show you how to add PDFs and other information, how to annotate the PDFs if you would want to add some additional information, how to add links, how to add some written notes. I'm also going to show you how you can share this page very easily with others. Like in my example here, I would share it with the people who travel with me, and then I show how they can add their comments. And I will also show how to create backlinks to this page to keep your organization up. And obviously we're gonna talk a lot more about how to organize things, how I set everything up. But I thought it would be a good idea to make some kind of test page together where I explain everything step by step. And you can see this actual page on the internet, just like I would share it with my friends. And I will leave the link in the description, and I will leave it there for a few weeks. So if you want to have a look, go right ahead. So now here we are inside of Craft Docs, and my idea was to roughly structure this video like this. So first we're going to talk about how to create a new workspace. As a second part, I'm going to talk about how to create folders and documents. Then obviously we're going to add some content, and I'm going to show you the few different types of contents you can add. And in the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I stay organized in Craft Docs. So let's go ahead and talk about the first part, how to create a new workspace. And that is actually quite easy. You just click up here on the little M icon. In your case, it may be a different letter. It starts with the letter of the first name. And then you just click on Add New Space. And since I am here on my Mac, I only have 2 options. I can create a new space in their cloud, or I can add an external location. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to go ahead and create a new space. And the space name is going to be travel. And create. And I don't want to invite any people right now. I can always do that later if I would want to. So I'm just gonna go and remove this. And as you can see, it added 2 documents into your new space that more or less explain a little bit what Craft is and how it works. But for the sake of our video, I just go ahead and delete those. So now it's time to set up some basic organization. And to do that, I click up here on that little icon so that the sidebar shows up. And here's another folder that we don't need, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete it as well. And the first thing that I would usually do is create kind of an inbox folder that stores all the temporary notes and the little snippets. But in the case of Craft Docs, this is already here, so I don't have to do that. But we are going to add a new folder, which I will call Trips. And I will give it a new icon. Let's see if we can find a palm tree. There we go. And create. And as you can see, our new folder shows up here. And if you would want to edit this name or the icon or just delete it or do anything else, just right click and it will open up this little menu. Now let's go ahead and create some documents inside of that folder. And all we have to do is either click up here on the new document, and let's name this honeymoon. Or we can also just press Command N and it will also create a new one. And let's call this the Brazil trip. Or Brazil 2021. So now if we go back into the trips folder, we see that both documents have been created. And I wanted them separately because at the end of the day, I want to share them with other people. So for that, if they were in one document together, like I will show you later, it would share everything, and that's why we keep them separated. So now let's add a little bit of content to the Brazil trip. So I just double click here and it will open up the page. And when you come over here, you see this other icon for the sidebar. And if you press it, it will open up all the options you have for your content. So over here in the sidebar, we have lots of different options. The first one that is selected is kind of the style options for the text. And as you can see, you have different options for the titles, like the size of the title and the subtitle. You can style the content, you can group things together. Down here you have some basic styling like bold and italics and strike through, and you can also make to-do lists and toggle lists and bullet points. And down here is some color choices. But we will talk more about this page when we actually create some content. The next thing would be the page style, where you can choose a few fonts. And down here you can choose to show a few header details. For example, show title would make the Brazil 2021 appear and disappear. You could also turn on the author if you work with a team, or you can turn on a cover image. And to add a cover image, you just click on it and then you get 2 choices. So you can either insert the file of your choice or you can get an image from Unsplash. In our case, I already prepared a header image, so we will just go insert file. So here we have a picture of 2 annoying tourists thinking it's fun to sit in the middle of the stairs in Rio, but I thought it's a fitting title image for our Brazil page. And down here you have a few more options that kind of influence first of how far away the blocks are on the page. You don't see much difference yet since there are no blocks on the page. And you can also adjust the page width a little bit. Over here on the page info, you get some generic information on your page. You could also turn on the spell check for lots of different languages. And you get some statistics for your document, like how many words and how many characters and so on. So the next one over here would be the actions, and there's lots of commands like moving things to the top and to the bottom and move to a new document and cut them out and so on. And you can also see all the shortcuts right next to it. And then over here in the last option, the share and publish, we will talk a little bit more at the end. And over here on the insert page, you get a few options to insert different things. But honestly, I never use them because there are many other ways to insert our content into Craft. For example, I just click on here and I can start typing. So now let's go ahead and create some content. So since this page is going to be shared with the other people who travel with me, what I would like to add to this page is a to-do list that all of us have to do before we departure. So I go over here and I choose a subtitle and start typing. So now I could add some additional decoration to my header. For example, I could just mark it and then it gives me a few more options. And there's a very nice one in here in the highlight. So all I do is click on this thing and then it gives me several color options, and it also has very nice headline gradients. And what we can also do, for example, is put one of those decorations of a focus block to it, and it makes it a little bit more visible. So one nice thing about Craft is that it's very easy to use all their options you have over here, but they also support Markdown. For example, instead of clicking on subtitle here, what I could also do is just press the hashtag twice and I would have another subheader. And a few of my favorite markups are: one hashtag is a header 1. Oops. 2 hashtags is a subheader. If I just press X and space, it automatically turns into a to-do. If I press the asterisk and space, it automatically turns into a bullet point. And if I press plus and then the space, it automatically turns into a toggle. So now if I would want to style my text, I have several options. So I can just mark the text and then press it accordingly. As you can see, you can also just use the shortcut Command B or Command I. And what you can also do is just add two asterisks and it will also make it bold. And one last markup that I use a lot is how to style links. So you just make 2 square brackets and you put your link text inside of it. And in round brackets, you just put the domain. And then it will make a nice link text. And if you make a mistake, you can always go back with Command C. But now let's go back to our to-do list. So I'm gonna delete all of this. I just mark it and delete it. So I come here in the first line and I just press X to create the to-do. And let's say I want everybody to sign up for SettleUp and join our group. This is the software we use to keep track of the finances as we go. And let's say I want everybody to register the travel with the embassy, book our hotel, and pack things from the shared packing list. So these are my to-dos for the team. Now what I can also do is just very easily drag and drop the things around. Just in front of it, I click on the dots that show up when you hover over it, and you just drag and drop the things around as you need them. So next, let's say I want to add our itinerary for the trip. So I would make another subheadline for the itinerary. And let's say on day 1 we have our flight to Brazil. On day 2 to 5 we spend in Rio. And on day 7 we have a trip to Jericoacoara. So now obviously I want to add a little bit more information to our itinerary. And first off, I would like to add our flight confirmation. So the way I would do that is just head over to the Finder. And I can just drag and drop the confirmation PDF right here into Craft. So let's say during our days in Rio, we already have a few things planned. So I just add a few words here. and then we are going to Jericoacoara. And now let's say for our trip to Jericoacoara, I already looked for a few nice trip ideas, and I'm just gonna add the links to here. So now with those links here, we have a few options when it comes to the layout. So we could make them very minimal, we can have them with a little bit more information, or we can just turn them into cards. And when you turn them into cards, they will show up next to each other. So now let's just go ahead and bold the days, so it's a little bit easier to see. And then our itinerary is more or less done. But now let's say I don't like the way it is on this page. I would much more prefer to have it on a separate page. So what I can do now is just mark it all. And I can group them. So I can either right click and press group, or I can just use the shortcut Command G. And as you can see, it turned it into a separate page. And now when I double click on here, I have a new page inside my old page. So now as you can see, I created a page within a page. And the nice thing is that I can create page inside of page, inside of page, inside of page. Doesn't matter how many. And so for example, let's say on this second page, we want to create another page. And the easiest would be to just press some slash and go page. And immediately you add another page where you could collect things. And you just double click here and you're on a new page. And as you can see here, it's now stacked inside the breadcrumb as well. So I can go back to this page and back to the very first page. So this is very powerful because you can really organize all your content into as many pages inside a page as you want. But now I don't really like the way this looks. So to make it a little bit more prettier, we can just click on it and click over here on card. And then it gives you lots of different options to style your cards. So up here you can choose several different ones. I think some of them are only available in the paid version. So I'm not sure which one they are because I used the paid version. But let's say I want to go with this one. You could choose the font style if you would want. You can add some colors and some gradients, or you can add some image. So you can either choose a custom image from your computer, or you can use Unsplash again. Let's say I want a picture from Rio de Janeiro. So let's just go ahead and use this first one. As you can see, it will put it as a background to our card. And if I go apply style, my card shows up in here. And when I want to see it, I just double click on it and I'm immediately back at that page. So next I want to create a few resources for my traveling partners. So I make a new subheader for resources and I will add a focus block. So let's say one page I would like to add is a shared packing list. So as I said, I have several options to create a new page. I can just go /page and add one. Let's say this is my shared packing list. And the second way to create pages would be to just make a random text, like we call this random page. And over here, when you click on this arrow, it will also open up a new page for you. As you can see, we have two pages. Now here's no icon because when I click on it, it gives me the styling options. And if I click here on page, it's again the same. Now the nice thing is with those pages, I can do more stuff with them. For example, if I mark them both, I could make them as to-do lists. So you have a page inside your to-do list. Or what you can also do is just make them bullet points. So now let's go to the shared packing list and let's create a few lists for things to bring. So let's say I will create a toggle list for me. So I just press plus and then it will turn it into a toggle list as soon as I press the spacebar. So let's say Maggie. And then I open this up and I'm gonna delete the toggle, and instead I'm gonna press X to create a new to-do. And let's say I'm gonna bring the shampoo and the game. And then I just delete the next lines. And let's say there is a second person who has to bring a few things, so I will just make another plus to make another toggle and call it random other person. Do the same again, just press X, and this one has to bring the shower gel, shower gel and the, well, we're not going to share the hairbrush. What else? We're going to share the charger. And as you can see, then you can just make them smaller and remove those extra parts, and it's a very nice organized list. So there are two more things I would really like to show you because I use them a lot, and for this we're gonna jump over to the iPad. And the first thing is that they did a very good job to include the Apple Pencil. So if I would just press here and come down here to insert file or media and insert new drawing, it will open this little drawing canvas for me, and here I can just add whatever I want. So let's write a little message. And once I'm done writing this, I just press done and save changes, and it will immediately add it to the end of my document, or the place where I wanted to add this. And I think this is a very nice way to integrate handwriting into your documents. Now, a second thing that is also very nice is that you can annotate PDFs. So let's go back to our itinerary, and here we added our flight confirmation. So if I open this up, I can just press on the little edit button up here, and it will bring up my tools. So I can just choose a pencil in a certain color and just directly draw inside the PDF. And if I press done again, it is right there forever inside that PDF. So this is really a very, very nice integration in my opinion. So now let's say I want to share the information with the friends I travel with. So I have several options to get this information to them. So we come over here to the Share and Publish menu. And as you can see here, I have several options from PDF. So I can just create a very nice PDF. And the nice thing is that it will put the main page, and then it will put all the sub pages after the main page. So you basically print the whole document. You can also have some other options like to export it to Word and so on. But what I would like to do today is to have the secret link. So when I enable this, people with the secret link can actually view this as a page in their browser. So when I click here on the secret link settings, I have a few options. For example, people can leave comments, and I can choose if they are shown on the page or not. If I want to show the title and the author, if I want to show created with Craft, and if I would make links to other pages if I would want to share them, but I don't want to. So now let's just go ahead and copy link. And if I come into my browser, I just copy in the link. And it will immediately open it up as a web page. So really everybody with this link can just watch this page as if it was a regular web page. And you can also click on all the sub pages. They can see the PDFs. They can follow the links. They can come back. They can come here, and basically they can see all the information that you put there. And when you hover over the elements, so you will see this little bubble with the plus pop up, and when you click on it, people can actually leave comments. So my name would be Maggie, continue, and my comment would be, Yes, I'm excited to go. And now if I would come back into Craft, it will show up as a comment inside my Craft. As you can see, here is my yes, I'm excited to go. So this would be very nice to share all the information for a trip, and it doesn't matter how often I would update any content inside of this page, the link would always be the same. So for me, just for travel planning with lots of people, pages like this are awesome. So now let's talk a little bit more about organization. So this is one page and it's very nicely organized with pages inside of pages and so on. But obviously you will have several more documents. Like we already have 2. So what I would like to do is what I call kind of index documents. And I usually create a new folder for them. Let's create a new document. So I just press Command N and I call it trip index. Now, let's say what I can do is we'll make a headline for upcoming trips. I will make a headline for the archive. And what I can do now is write, let's say I go from November to December 21 to Brazil. And if I mark this now and I go up to the @ I can make a block link. And when I do this, I can just search for other pages. So we have the Brazil 2021 page. And if I click on here, I created a link. And we will do the same with a quicker version is to just press @ and say honeymoon. This will also link to the other page. So now if I double click on this page, it will take me back to this page that we just created. And now when I come down here, I will see the backlinks. So it tells me exactly which page links to this page. And with that, I can already jump back to this other one. And now let's assume that the trip is done. What I would usually do is just drag and drop it down into the archive. And these index documents usually help me to stay organized, and I create them whenever I feel that I need some more organization. And since I have 2 separate pages, one for this Brazil trip and one for the honeymoon, if I want to share one of them, like the Brazil trip, it's nice and organized. And the honeymoon information is not in there. Whereas if I would put it on the same page and just create 2 separate pages on the same page instead of 2 separate documents, then this would be exported together and everybody would be able to see my honeymoon information, for example. So one last thing that helps me to stay very organized is up here, as you can see, those tabs. They're very helpful because all the documents you can open at once. They're up here in the tabs. You can also, what is very nice and what is not the case in Notion, for example, you can open up documents from different workspaces. So I have a personal one and a one for work, and I can mix and match the documents as I need them up here. And another thing you can do now is just drag and drop complete folders up here, and they will also show up as a tab. And this can really speed up your workflow. So there are a few more things about Craft that I use a lot to stay organized, especially on the iPad. And for that, we're going to jump over to the iPad again. One thing they integrated very nicely is the split screen options of the iPad. So for example, if I would just take my Brazil 2020 page and drag and drop it over to the side, it would open up as a separate document. And on the other side, I can open a different document. Let's just remove the sidebar here. But for example, now let's say I would want to reuse some parts that I created for the Brazil page on my honeymoon. Let's say, for example, the shared packing list. So what I would do is just mark the shared packing list. Go to Actions and go to Duplicate. And now I have it twice. So now let's say I want this packing list for the honeymoon as well. So I just drag and drop it over. And now it's also part of the honeymoon page. So it's very, very easy to drag and drop content from one place to another and get your information reorganized if you need. Okay everyone, this is it. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to just leave them in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, then maybe you also like my other video about craft that I am going to link somewhere up here. So thanks for watching and I see you in the next video. Bye!